Alright, well my name is William Mitchell, and I'm here to talk about a book I read called Good Capitalism, Bad Capitalism. This was written by three men, William Baumol, Robert E. Litan, and Carl Schramm. As far as the authors go, just real quick, William Baumol is a very noted economist. This guy's been all over. We've read something by him. He was born February 26, 1982. He's a professor of entrepreneurship and academic director at New York University, senior economist and professor emeritus. He's written, we get the number, lots of books. Very noted. His awards column on any biograph is just scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. He's one ton. Very beautiful guy. Robert E. Litan was a vice president for research and policy at the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation in Kansas City. The other guy that wrote for this book is also in this organization. Kauffman Foundation is an entrepreneurial venture firm. They look for, scout, and find entrepreneurial investments. He's co-authored or authored more than 20 books. He served as a consultant to the Department of Treasury. This guy gets a lot of his claim from working with the government. He's very reputable. These among sources and info as far as statistics and all of that technology stuff goes. Carl Schramm is the president and chief executive officer of the Kauffman Foundation. He has founded more companies in healthcare, finance, information technology. He is the entrepreneur. He started the Kauffman Foundation, which starts other entrepreneurs. So this is where this book got a lot of experience in the field as far as writing about entrepreneurs, which this book is mainly about. About this book, there are three really big, broad topics that they talk about, and the first of which being that economic growth is good. They bring up a lot of counterpoints and arguments as to why that would be, but they say overall that it is good, and because it's good, we should foster it however we can. In doing that, we need to work with economic systems. They say there are four running around right now, but they're all capitalistic, and there are four ways that they exist in the world today. Outside of that, because they exist in the world today, how do they exist in the world? Well, that's based on policy, and that policy can be affected, and good policy can foster economic growth. So, as far as that goes, the first point I want to talk about is the economic of growth as a good. It's only through growth that people's living standards, whatever they are now, can improve. They say, however poor you are, the only way you're going to get better is if the economy gives you growth. So we should pursue that no matter what. A couple of big arguments to this would be, is it sustainable? They think that it is. As far as growth going, they produce the statistic, 1975 world economic output has increased more than sevenfold. There was a guy in the 1800s, Thomas Malthus. He was the one that thought that we would eventually starve ourselves before technological innovation would give us enough food to live. And they cite him and all of his resources. Outside of that, with the growth that comes, you can deal with the externalities that come from the side effects of economic growth. Point in case, the air is now cleaner than it was 30 years ago. But another question they raise is, would you be happier if you received more income in the future, even if everyone else received the same increase? That is, does relative wealth matter? And in doing so, does creating economic growth in all nations of the world at once affect anyone at all, or is it a zero-sum game? They say it does matter because, as you can see, life expectancies are still going up. And so how can you dispute that? Not only that, but in creating these new markets and getting these richer people, you get more people that can buy your stuff. More people that can buy your stuff gives future economic growth. So even if New Yorkers are rich, even if New Yorkers benefit as other states' incomes rise, they can buy more of New York stuff. That's basically what they're saying here. We don't need to worry about China becoming rich. But with both parents working in many families, the constant struggle to do good work at quality time with their children makes Americans feel as though they were running on a treadmill. This is another argument about economic growth, and they say that this too is also an externality, that the newness will wear off, but we can work on that. Given economic growth, we can focus our energies and our innovations into this area. But that's also kind of an interesting thing, and they say that that boredom also might be an interesting factor in driving in innovation and economic growth, which they think is a big factor. So if the economic growth is what we want, and how do we get it? Well, they say there's a recipe. Other economists have since come to a similar conclusion that technological change is a key factor in the driver in growth. They go into a lot of explanation at this point of the book that technology really is. They cite the gentleman who gathered 1950s U.S. output versus capital letters. His name was Solow. And Solow found out that 87.5% of the economic growth was attributed to technological change. He won a Nobel Prize take that for what you want. Great stat that they bring up there. And there's not really many mention of Schumpeter and creative destruction here, but they do that later on when they talk about their policies, which is a weird way to bring it up, but I thought it was kind of fun while I was reading it. So as far as the types of capitalism that go into here, this is the second part of the book. The types of capitalism are really kind of what you think they would be. There's four big ones. There's state-guided, which is the government gives the market, guesses potential winners, and then funds those investments as such. There's oligarchic, where the power and wealth is held by very few, and they fight and they suppress all the other ones. There's the big firm, which most significant economics are carried out by giant enterprises, and those kind of maintain status quo as they can and use innovations from entrepreneurial. The fourth form, which is just small innovative firms running around doing what they will. Examples of this you can see state-guided to be in Southeast Asia, Germany, France, United States, so like Freddie Mac, all them. Oligarchic would be like the Soviet Union, big firm, Japan, the United States, entrepreneurial. So the United States, recent efforts by India and China. But the key is really the right mix, and they say that the United States really had the right mix of big firm and entrepreneurial, and that was their point throughout most of the book, is that mix between big firm and entrepreneurial produced the growth that we saw that was so rapid and so important and so revolutionizing throughout the way that the world works. Well, how do you get the right mix? That's the third part of the book, and that's through policy. They have four big broad points here. The ease of startup business. This is going to be startup costs, exit costs, things like that, red tape. If it takes a lot, then you can't get into business. They say it's important to have rewards for productive entrepreneurial activity, which would be tax structures, property rights, things like those lines. You need disincentives for unproductive activity, which would be things like welfare, Social Security, and that sort of stuff. Really inhibits innovation because it gives people security blankets so they don't have to fight to work and all that sorts of stuff. They also say you need to keep the winners on the toes. A big part of that is antitrust, open borders, things along these lines that really make it so companies have to fight. One of the points they bring up here is really kind of cool is the Red Queen game, which is basically you have to survive because if you don't keep up with your competition, the person that's the lowest gets killed, like in the Alice in Wonderland. And that says that also fosters economic growth and prevents stagnation and all that sort of stuff. Really fun book, and there's some great critiques on here. And really, at Amazon.com, I went there and they had 2 reviews that really did some really great stuff that are talking about the main points of this book. This one guy, Michael Emma Bradley, said that the authors missed a point, that the Smith and Keynes made government regulation is essential to prevent the moral failure caused by self-interest, the division of labor, and the invisible hand. They say, well, we need government intervention. The authors of this book are kind of against it. But they do recommend government intervention and monitoring, at least to an extent, anti-monopoly policies, property rights advocacy, and all sorts of stuff. But this is the main point. The critic seems to champion nationalized banks, and the authors say that we should privatize them. They think that the privatization will give individual viewpoints and allow for different venues for innovation and growth. Another critique that was really right on was this ethos and free fall. Says that this book is pro-globalization, pro-deregulation, and of course screw the environment and anyone who doesn't want to live like a salmon swimming upstream, which it is. But the funny thing about that is that the point they make and they try to make, and I think they do it really well, was that an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. That's what like all of the economics things are based on, and they support that most than any other ones. So whatever you want to do. In the end, it was a good book. I do recommend it. It was really well written, not much math in there at all. Really flows well, and the chapters really go right along. Again, good capital, bad capitalism. That's it.